Welcome to our novel, Sons of Power. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already.
On September 3rd, 1931, Lady Barbosa, my beloved grandmother, passed away. Shortly after, my father's health began to decline, and by 1934, he relied on my youthful vigor to assist him in his duties at court. As a crown prince, I found myself frequently infatuated with different women each month. However, I knew I had to make a choice, and I ultimately decided to marry the beautiful Lady Tefaye of Clan Waika in June 1936. 3 years later, I succumbed to the seduction of Lady Ada of Clan Waka, and she became my second spouse. My mother cautioned me about the risks of engaging in polygamous unions, as they could potentially destabilize the empire. As my father's health continued to deteriorate, he warned me about the possibility of encountering Imperial Japan in battle. He did not fear many nations on Earth, but he wished to avoid a confrontation with this powerful potential foe. Sadly, in early December 1938, my father peacefully passed away in his sleep, and I ascended the throne of Roman Polynesia on January 1st, 1939. When the Empire of the Rising Sun began exporting its military prowess to neighboring countries, we knew we had to be cautious. I took Father's words to heart regarding the potential threat they represented. Despite choosing neutrality at the outbreak of the Second World War, unforeseen events would soon force my hand. My love life, meanwhile, was ever turbulent, as the expectation of having an heir weighed heavy on my first wife, the proud mother of Princess Safina, our first child. A confident lady, Ada gave birth to a baby boy named Kaha on October 15, 1940. As one would expect, Kaha's birth put further pressure on my first marriage, since Empress Tefahe had no son to date. She eventually fell pregnant, praying to bring into the world a male heir. Her prayers were answered, and Prince Demetrius Makarios was born on June 23, 1941. He was by law my designated crown prince, the first male offspring from my first civil union. The arrival of my two sons, born from different women into this tense context of the World War, added further complication to my early rule, as it became obvious that the clans Waika and Waka soon divided my court. My mother had warned me, but I was the nation's ruler, one surrounded by beautiful women. The thought of having any of them at my request was a power I cherished. Little did I know about the consequences of such lifestyle at the time, but with age I grew wiser. The attack on Pearl Harbor and repeated violations of our territorial waters by Japanese vessels led to a shift in our stance. Observing the refusal of their ships to comply with the instructions of my navy, I ordered their systematic destruction. This action was considered an act of war by Imperial Japan, and they vowed to destroy us. As the United States of America engaged in battle against Japan in the Pacific, we joined their efforts, moving towards Southeast Asia to challenge Axis territorial holdings. Additionally, 25,000 Roman Polynesians were sent to France, which was then under Nazi occupation, to fight alongside the Valerian Republic. After 4 years of intense battles on land, air and sea, victory was eventually achieved. While Germany capitulated, Imperial Japan continued to resist, leading the Americans to utilize an inconceivable weapon, one with dreadful consequences. Witnessing the apocalyptic scenes of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a horrifying experience for us all. I began to fear for the future of our empire, knowing that nations possessed such weapons of mass destruction. War was no longer about manpower and strategy. At the pressing of a button, the outcome of just any battle could be decided. Eventually, Japan surrendered and the war came to an end. We were congratulated by Western powers for standing together with them against the forces of evil. It made me question the meaning of evil, for surely the Japanese saw America as such, perhaps rightfully so, considering the hundreds of thousands who perished in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But then there was the horror of the concentration camps, and I made the resolution that it was to be our nation's primary objective, to acquire the means to deter any potential enemy. Right and wrong became blurry notions in my mind as I contemplated the outcome of the war. To be brutally honest, I would have launched the nuke under similar circumstances, especially if I knew very well this meant the end of the war. I considered myself a Corian Basilius, a pure descendant of our warrior emperor, Kawhi Alexandros, first of his name. I felt sorry for the enemy, but I needed to show resilience and leadership in these difficult times. From these horrific events, I arrived at a simple conclusion. Regardless of whether we deemed nuclear weapons evil or not, Roman Polynesia had to ensure that such a fate did not befall its people. We made the decision to invest in the development of atomic bombs for the safety and security of our nation. This was not a matter up for debate, it was a matter of national security. Under my leadership, the Empire of Roman Polynesia successfully conducted its first nuclear weapon test in July 1955, becoming the next nuclear power after the United States, the Soviet Communist Union, and Great Britain. 3 other tests were subsequently carried out, with the locations of these experiments remaining undisclosed to the public for decades to come. I was determined to ensure that our nation was prepared for any potential conflict, and in the worst-case scenario, mutual destruction was assured. We formed a close circle of nuclear powers, later extended to include France and Shazan. With ownership of atomic weapons came the understanding that our nations were not to be provoked into war under any circumstance. One would think that was enough to prevent further conflict. Unfortunately, if only common sense was a virtue shared by all humans on the planet.
War indeed can transform the kindest of human into a destructive force of nature. In the next episode, the story returns to Kitonga, as internal strife complicates the return of the former Kitonga realm under the leadership of Clan Wabonga. We thank you for your precious support and hope that you will be a returning visitor. If you have not done so, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel, drop a like on this video, and let us know in the comment section what you appreciate about our story. Here for the first time? Well, check out previous videos to catch up with the story. We hope to have you around on the next episode. Cheers!